I'm joined by South Shore Press Sports Director Tom Barton to talk about this coaching carousel in the NFL. Tom, how are you?
Doing pretty good. My Bears lost, not great, but I'm doing good. At least we have a coach.
Yeah, it's true. My beloved Buffalo Bills are not only out of the playoffs, but without a coach. Let's talk about that. I'm thinking going back to Bill Belichick when he stiffed the Jets and said, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to coach the Patriots. Do you think there's any chance that John Harbaugh is like, hey, Giants, hold on. There's an opening with Buffalo. I'm going to the Bills.
It's funny you bring that up. I was actually at that press conference. That was my first ever press conference, the first thing that I was ever told to do, and that unfolded. So, yeah, it was unprecedented. I don't think it's going to happen. Look, a lot of people believe that the Buffalo job is just such an amazing, outrageous, tremendous job. It is, but it's also working with a quarterback that is already kind of set in his ways. It's a rebuild defense. I think the Giants have a lot of good parts. That is a very attractive job, besides the obvious, the Jackson Dart, who's young enough to kind of learn under Harbaugh, and Scadaboo, and Neighbors. Besides that, look at the defense that they have. One of the best defensive lines in football. So I think a stable organization, a good young core offensively, and a really good defensive line is attractive enough. And oh, by the way, $100 million probably keeps him.
So you don't think there's any chance at all that Harbaugh's like, yeah, smell you later. I'm going to go coach the Bills.
I don't think so. And I think that if he did, it would be so outrageously ridiculous that the Bills would have to pay him more for them to not get tampering charges and the NFL to investigate. I just don't think that it's in the stratosphere. To me, Harbaugh's a Giant. You don't have to worry about that, New York Giant fans. Bills fans, look, yeah, I get it. Harbaugh was the big piece, but there's a chance that he would have chose the Giants anyway.
I mean, Bills Mafia is going crazy about Sean McDermott being fired. But look, I'm of the mindset of your season is a failure if you don't win the last game of the year, meaning the Super Bowl. And McDermott's taken the Bills as far as he can. It's almost like Tampa Bay firing a great guy, Tony Dungy, and then they go on to win the Super Bowl. He goes on to have a great career. Don't you see a lot of similarities in firing Sean McDermott in that example?
Well, yes, that's the rosy way to look at it. There is the other way, and like I said, I'm a Bears fan. The Bears fired Lovie Smith after 10-win season, got to the playoffs and fired him. And we said, well, you know what? He got us as far as we could. 20 years later, Bears still weren't in the playoffs. I mean, that does happen as well. The grass isn't always greener kind of situation. I think it was time for McDermott and the Bills to split. I understand why they did it, even though I don't think it's fully McDermott's fault. A lot of defensive problems, a lot of bad drafting with no wide receivers. I get it. What I always say in sports is, who are you replacing them with? I don't know if firing Sean McDermott is a good idea because I don't know who they're replacing him with. The big conversation and the odds on the odds board is that Brian Daboll would come in. In that case, I don't think that McDermott should have been fired, right? But if you had a Harbaugh come in that case, I agree with it. So a lot of this is still the dominoes of who are you replacing McDermott with? And I think that the Bills organization is doing the right thing. And I think they're going to replace him with somebody that Buffalo does like.
But don't you think there should have been a plan in place? I mean, it's a huge decision, one that I agree with as a Bills fan. Daboll would be great. He's from Western New York. He's coached Josh Allen. It just seems it would be a little herky-jerky and reactive just to say, hey, this guy's fired, and then there's no plan in place with a ton of other openings across the league.
Well, that's the problem. This is not a coaching cycle that has already gone through a little bit. It's not a coaching cycle where there's some obvious fits. There's 9, starting off before the Harbaugh signing, there was 9 coaching openings. 9! That is 1/3 of the league almost. I mean, it's unprecedented. And what you're doing is you're scraping together the pieces. There's no absolutely surefire guy coming from college. There's no absolute Ben Johnson, offensive guru that can't miss kind of guy out there. There's no retread like a Harbaugh left because Harbaugh was the obvious guy. That's my concern with firing McDermott here. Again, I understand it. I'm not saying I agree with it. I understand what the Bills had to do. I know that you're in the mindset that they had to move on, and I'm fine with that. But there is no obvious replacement. It's going to be really interesting to see who Buffalo had. Like you said, they had to know it was coming. Look, if they lose, we're getting rid of McDermott. All right, good. Who's coming in? And they had to know or be prepared for who's coming in. Whether it's right or wrong, we don't know. But I do think that they had their pieces in place. I don't think Buffalo's an organization that they're just scattering and running for the hills here.
All right. We'll stay in touch with you in the coming weeks ahead about the Giants, Bills, and all things NFL and all things sports betting. That's South Shore Press Sports Director Tom Barton. Always good to see you.
Good to see you guys.